Hello, my name is Stephen Friedman, and this is my virtual debate project for Political Science Class 361. The building of a border wall between Mexico and the United States is not a positive foreign policy initiative. According to USHistory.org, the main objective of foreign policy is to use diplomacy, or talking, meeting, and making agreements, to solve international problems, and then try and keep those problems from developing into conflicts that require military settlements. Now, that definition may be a little idealistic, but in general, foreign policy should advance the goals and interests of the country that it represents. Now, since June of 2015, then presidential candidate Trump began calling for a border wall to be built between Mexico and the United States. Since then, several people have taken up the call for just such a barrier. The Trump administration has requested $5.6 billion to fund this project. And the justifications for this wall, they're ever-changing, but the main reasons are to halt illegal immigration and drug trafficking. Now, the reason I state this border wall would not be a positive foreign policy, aside from the fact that it doesn't use diplomacy to talk or meet with these immigrant nations to solve the international problems, but because in the end, the wall would fail to prevent significant numbers of illegal immigrants from coming into the United States, and would have even less of an effect on drug trafficking. And with a $5.6 billion price tag, that's a waste of substantial funds that could go to more helpful projects, and doesn't, in the long run, advance the goals and interests of the country. Now, the United States has a long history of immigration. Basically, this is a country full of immigrants. Historians usually point to three waves of immigration. The colonial wave, which saw immigrants from mostly Western European countries. Then during the 1800s, a second wave from Central and Eastern Europe, as well as the Mediterranean. And now, modern times, there's an influx from predominantly Hispanic and Asian countries. Now, like those previous waves, the vast majority of all immigrants enter the country through ports of call, not by illegally crossing the border. Now, the Pew Research Center says that nearly 1 million immigrants enter the United States each year, and of the highest number in 2017, Asian countries were two of the top four, India and China. Now, obviously, those immigrants are arriving by airport or even possibly ship, but not by crossing the border from Mexico. Now, I have to admit, over 400,000 illegal immigrants were arrested last year trying to cross the border, but the majority of them were caught at legal points of entry. Additionally, that number is down drastically from earlier in the 2000s, when the amount was almost 1 million arrests. Now, much like immigrants, the vast majority of drugs enter this country via legal ports as well. And according to the U.S. Customs Service, their statistics show that 87% or more of the illegal drugs that are smuggled into the U.S. came across the border at legal points of entry. So if both immigrants and drugs are coming into the country from established ports of entry, what's the point of the wall? Now, those in favor of the border wall may point to San Diego as an example that the wall will in fact work, because back in the 1990s, a large barrier was constructed, and admittedly, illegal crossings at that point have certainly declined. But why did they decline? Is it because those attempting to cross just couldn't get past the wall, or did they simply move down the line to where there was no wall? Now, President Trump himself doesn't even propose building a wall across the whole border, because the border is 1,900 miles across, and the president's proposal only asks for 1,000 miles of fencing. The other 900 miles is considered unpassable. It's mountains, forest, and desert. Now, one of those unpassable areas is the Devil's Highway, which is a stretch of desert known for large numbers of deaths of illegal immigrants attempting to cross the border and perishing there in the desert. So now we know that people trying to enter this country are willing to risk their lives. That means that these unpassable areas are indeed passable, and immigrants will risk their lives to do so. Now, even if we built a wall that did in fact cover the whole border, would it really halt illegal immigration? The Center for Immigration Studies states that 2/3 of illegal immigrants in the country are here due to overextended visas. Now, what that means is that they enter the country legally, then don't leave when they're supposed to. So, even if the proposed wall was 100% effective in stopping all illegal border crossings, that means it would still only have stopped 1/3 of the total illegal immigration. And of course, the wall wouldn't be 100% effective, because even the San Diego Tribune reports that in 2017, the wall down there was breached 550 times in 1 year. That shows immigrants will find a way to enter this country. If they can't go around a wall, they will try to go over, under, or through it. So if the true purpose of this policy is to stem the tide of immigration, they would be far more successful if they put their efforts into helping develop the countries that these immigrants come from. Now, as I stated earlier, the first two major waves of immigration in this country were from Western, then Central, and Eastern Europe. Those countries only make up a minute fraction of total immigration today. And in fact, President Trump has even asked for more immigrants from these areas, using Norway as an example of desirable immigrants. Now, the government isn't looking to build a wall between the US and Canada either, because there just aren't enough people coming from there, because Canada and Europe enjoy a similar standard of living and have near equal opportunities for their citizens as the US. Even Mexico, the country we want to build this wall between, has seen a dramatic decrease in the number of their citizens immigrating. Between 2007 and 2017, Mexico was responsible for the single largest group of illegal immigrants. But that has dropped since then by almost 2 million people. Meanwhile, other countries in Central and South America have grown, and that is because of the civil unrest and lack of opportunities in those regions. If you want to stop people from leaving those areas, help make those areas more desirable to live in so people won't want to leave. Help them to educate their people, making their immigrants more desirable. Use that $5.6 billion to aid those countries. Or you can use it here at home and fix Flint, Michigan's water problems, or increase federal aid for K-12 schools by as much as 30%. Or maybe even better yet, double the funding for citizen and immigration services to help immigrants become citizens. Thanks.